much, there's so much politics involved with it that we need someone that's up there telling us what's going on, what's happening, because everything that you found out has always been, especially with basketball, it's been last minute, and it's just been like, oh, this is what they decided to do, and we're not hearing the reason as to why. But yeah, I mean, we sit here today. Carolina's probably going to play the Maui Invitational. They're probably going to play the ACC Big Ten Challenge because both conferences are committed to playing both those. And they may get a one or two other small games in, but that's going to be it because of right now you just don't know what you're allowed to do,
right?
And what you want to do. So it's going to be an ACC heavy schedule, and Carolina's going to need to perform well in Maui because, as you said, as we move on to the main part of the podcast, Carolina was 14-19 last year, and I've said that a lot. Normally, when you're 14-19,
it's hard to forget that record, man. Yeah,
you don't enter the next year with high hopes and a lot of expectation and a lot of pressure around you. Chapel Hill is one of the few places that a one down year doesn't stop. If anything, it's ramped it up even more.
Yeah, I was going to say it elevates the pressure on this team and staff going forward because the criticism just
it's going to continue to mount.
Yeah, it gets overboard.
So Carolina's about to start practice. And as I've mentioned a lot, this offseason was the most important offseason since Roy Williams came home. I think it was more important than when he got his first year back, the years after you've won national championships, after the 2010 debacle, after all the stuff you went through with NCAA, after offseason, after offseason, after offseason. I think this
debacle, by the way,
whatever
debacle.
I think this was bigger because after last year, there was, albeit people that thought it was time for the program to go in a different direction. My own brother has said that he's too old and it's time to move on. So I've had in-family fights about this.
Yeah, you wonder why your brother is not
on here.
He's not an apprentice for this show because that is the dumbest thing that I have heard.
That's a fireable offense.
I mean, I don't understand how there are people that think that after pretty much. I mean, all offseason, you were praising the man before the year because, he's finally got it on track recruiting-wise.
Yeah.
Which is the stupidest storyline ever, by the way, because if you thought that he had lost his recruiting touch, I don't know how to help you. Even if you don't think that the guys were that talented, you probably missed the fact that Theo, Joel Berry,
Marcus Page, Bryce Johnson, Justin Jackson.
I mean, they were
quality
high 4 stars. 5-star players.
Yep.
You don't realize that because it doesn't fit the narrative that people are putting out.
Because they weren't one and dones.
And see, that's the thing. Now it'll become even more common with the G League that you're going to see guys that won't even go to college. So all your 5-stars, it's going to be very, very hard to see a 5-star stick around. But I mean, look at Armando Bacot.
Yep.
5-star that's sticking around. This is just something about how they run the program. The guys that usually end up signing know what they're signing up for. But to say that he is losing it, I mean, again, I know it's what have you done for me lately? I mean, still, is 2017 not in the lately category?
Well, I mean, you gotta, you went,
and they were a 1 seed the year after that too.
Yeah.
Like we choose to, I guess, forget that because they lost to Texas A&M, a team that just it scheme wise was built to beat us. They had 2 bigs inside that can compete with our rebounding, and we couldn't hit shots. It was just a perfect combination in that game. They get beat, and it seems like since that point, everybody has just chosen to say, well, he's losing his touch. He just doesn't have it.
Well,
and it's like that's not at all it. I mean, you had one down year because you had a bunch of injuries. Your team, you had Kobe White leave when you weren't expecting that, along with Nazir Little, who honestly probably should have ended up staying. But you know what? Again, that's hindsight. It's just like that in football too, where there's guys that leave. You say, look, looking back on it, they probably should have come back. But I mean, at the same time, I don't understand throwing Roy to the wolves because, again, if you don't think that he is the guy, who is the guy? We ask this all the time when people want to bring this up. If you don't think that he's the guy that can take this program where they want to be right now, you need to give me a name and reasons why this person is better than Roy Williams, because I can tell you you're wrong. There's nobody right now that's qualified to take over that job from Roy Williams. And save me the bullshit of we're going to go out and get Shaka Smart. No, not Shaka, completely overrated. Save me the thing of we're going to go out and get Jay Wright. That's not, I don't see that happening.
No, it's not. Okay. First off, I did not mean to get on this kind of rant, and I'm not going to go.
This happens every time.
This was not what I was trying to get at when I was mentioning the important offseason and all that.
Well, but you're right.
We have this argument every offseason when you win a national championship.
But you're right. There is so much criticism because this is his first losing season of his entire coaching career.
As a college coach, yes.
And people are saying to themselves, well, how does he get it back on track? Well, I mean, he's got the talent, and this is not going to last. Roy Williams is not a guy that's going to lay down and take losses. We know that he is a guy that, I mean, this man literally has insomnia when he doesn't win. So it's not going to keep up. He's going to do whatever it takes to win games. And yeah, things aren't normal, but look, if there's a guy that has a scheme that can work with some of the newer guys coming in, it would seem like that's Roy Williams.
You asked the question, how does Carolina get back to being Carolina? I wrote an article on HeelToughBlog.com, and it was 3 things that Carolina needs to accomplish in practice before the season starts, because you didn't have the normal summer to where you play the pickup games, where in reality, that's where these players, that's where their growth happens. The coaches won't say it happens in practice, but it's on the pickup, it's with the pickup games with the former players and all that stuff, where you're really seeing how their game is growing. Because of COVID, didn't have that. You didn't have a normal offseason. You won't
have late night with Roy, which, right. I mean, again, that scrimmage is, take it or leave it. Nobody's going some guys aren't going 100% or whatever, but it's still a look at them and a competition with some fans normally in the stands.
You're not going to have a normal preseason where you've got late night with Roy. You're not going to have that preseason scrimmage. So a lot's got to happen in preseason practice. The biggest thing for me is you've got to figure out your backcourt and figure out who you can trust and who you can't. And I know normally you have a 10 to 15 game sample size where you can put out different lineups and try to figure it all out for ACC season. You're not going to have that. You're going to have the Maui Invitational. You're going to have your ACC Big Ten Challenge. And that might be it. You don't want to risk going 0 in those games with tinkering for other lineups. Right. So a lot of in practice, you would imagine to be a lot of in-game situations, because that's where you're going to really find out a lot about who you are before the season goes underway. You lost Cole Anthony. Caleb Love's coming in, a lot of talent, a 5-star prospect from St. Louis, Missouri, but that's your 4th point guard in as many years.
Well, and the other thing for freshmen, I think one of the interesting ways that you could look at it if they have to start out with Maui and the ACC Big Ten Challenge, this is kind of like AAU ball, where it's a team that is thrown together. You guys really haven't practiced a lot together. It's just who is more talented when you go head-to-head. And that's the other thing.
You're going to find out early in practice who can play and who can't.
Yeah,
right.
and other
not saying
teams,
that these guys can't play,
right?
But you're going to find out is Puff Johnson going to be able to help you in year 1, or is he a year 2, year 3 kind of guy? Same thing with Kerwin Walton. Both guys can contribute this year. I think if they had a role in the rotation, I would not be surprised.
Right, but they should. You cannot go in with the expectations, and this is what I think is going to really hurt Puff. People are going to pretty much say, well, he's coming in, he's going to be exactly like Cam. Cam was a finished product
from the 3 as a senior. You can't expect that.
And he was close to a finished product when he came to us. There were some things that we had to adjust, but he had played 2 years in Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh in the ACC is what I'm saying. I mean, this guy's coming straight out of high school. The same thing I think is with Kerwin Walton. We got so wrapped up in his recruitment and how big it was for Carolina at the time because they were looking for another guard in the class. This guy's a dude that's ranked just inside the top 100 players. Yeah. And in basketball, that's a lower ranking than I think a lot of people realize. It's going to take him time to become a complete player, but people just don't. I mean, that's the thing. Expectations are going to be huge. But that's, you got to look at it from the other team's perspective that you're going to be playing. When you go to Maui, 5-star true freshman Zaire Williams, he doesn't have a full season of practice or off season of practice. He might have less practice than you do because of the restrictions in the state of California.
Right.
So Stanford, they're going to be in a similar situation. Same thing with Indiana, a team that, like you said, they're going to be probably playing for Archie Miller's job. That's a real possibility. But they haven't had an offseason to prepare. Everybody's going through the same thing as you are. So that's what you've got to understand as these players. Look, we're behind the curve a little bit, but so is everybody else.
Yeah. So when I get to figuring out the backcourt is I think Caleb Love, barring an injury, knock on wood, is going to be your starting point guard. But how do you feel?
Yeah.
How do you feel the 2 guard? Roy Williams said back in August that he anticipates Anthony Harris being ready to go by the start of the season, but he's also not going to push it if he ain't ready to go.
Okay, and here's the thing, the reason that I would take that with a little bit of caution. We heard the same thing on the football side of things with Patrice Renee and Cameron Kelly, and both guys, as it was revealed earlier this week by Mac Brown, haven't played a whole lot because their rehab
because of COVID.
Yeah, their rehab was stunted. So, I look, there's reason to be optimistic about Anthony Harris, but at the same time, you got to understand that he hasn't been able to rehab the way he normally would, where you're in the training room for 10, 12 hours a day, making sure that you're getting everything you need. They're working with you, trying to strengthen that knee back. They haven't been able to do that. So I don't know how much he'll be able to play early on in the year. That's why you're going to need other guys to emerge. And we've talked about a lot of them here. And I think the one that, again, it's going to be painful. A lot of people aren't going to like it. Andrew Platek's one of your guys that's really got to step up early in the season to not only give Anthony Harris some time to get healthy, but to give the freshmen some time to settle in.
Yeah, you're going to need, because if Andrew Platek, for some reason, can't get on the court, because something like he just isn't producing, you're going to have a freshman backcourt and you're too deep. You're going to be rolling out Caleb Love, RJ Davis. Anthony Harris is basically a freshman in terms of playing time on the court in the ACC.
Played 5 games. Yeah, that doesn't
and then Puff and Kerwin
count.
Walton. Yeah. That's not a recipe for success for Carolina. You're going to need Andrew Platek to provide, even if it's just some leadership, and he just does the little things. You're still going to need that. You're going to need KJ Smith to be better at what his role is, which is those 3 to 4 minutes when he's asked to run the offense and to set the defense. You run the offense and you set the defense, and you just survive to the next media timeout. But I think that's what Carolina. I think that's where it starts for this team. Is you were so bad in the backcourt and the perimeter last year, mainly due to injuries. You've got to have that answer moving right away when you tip off the season. Another thing, Carolina's loaded on the interior. Garrison Brooks coming back, going to be a preseason All-America, preseason All-ACC. Armando Bacot, the most double-doubles as a freshman in Carolina basketball history. So, you've got that going for you. We all thought he had a down year last year. That says a lot about the expectation coming in.
Yes.
You're bringing in Day'Ron Sharp. You're bringing in Walker Kessler. You're going to need your rotation before you start playing. You don't want to tinker with that. Right. When you're trying to win games, because you're going to start your season trying to build your resume for March. As unbelievably crazy as that sounds, that's how it's going to happen this year.
Right.
So, I think you've got to know when you tip off the first game, barring injury, or this is what we're going to go with until we think we need a change. Is it Garrison Brooks and Armando Bacot? Is it Garrison Brooks and Walker Kessler? Is it Garrison Brooks and Day'Ron Sharp? And then how do the 2 guys off the bench factor in? And then you also got to remember, this is one thing if Carolina gets in foul trouble. Bixter supposedly on his way back. He's on the court. He's been participating in drills. He should be able to play this year. And then you've also got Walker Miller, who, when you put him out there, he's at least going to give you effort, and he's going to do what you ask him to do. So if you get in foul trouble, you've now got 6 guys that you can rotate on the post. Mm-hmm. And I think, Carolina's got a lot of talent coming in on the perimeter. We've talked about it. And these guys can shoot the rock. But that ball better go inside before you start going down and junking up threes. So figuring out who you're going to play together inside, I think, is a big part for this team that needs to be answered in practice.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it ultimately doesn't really matter too much because, I mean, you're going to rotate guys in and out throughout the game.